The last session for today, and it's a very special talk by a very good friend of mine. This is Albert Barqué-Duran. Albert did a very exciting project about a year ago where he worked with an AI to create something, and he's here to talk about it. His project is called My Artificial Muse. So please give a round of applause for Albert.
Thank you, Miki. Thank you. And I know everyone is exhausted from the day. Everyone wants to go back home, so I'm aware of that. So I tried to prepare something really informal, so please relax and enjoy the next 45 minutes, please. And I'm really excited, seriously, to share with you one of my last projects, my Artificial Muse. And just in one sentence, it's one of those projects that is at the intersection in between arts, science, and technology. And just to put you a bit more into a specific mindset, I'm just going to play a really short teaser. I guess more questions than answers, and that's exactly what a teaser should be like, right? In a nutshell, what we try to do with this project would be that we created the first oil painting, but designed by an artificial neural network, and it was created during a 3-day-long performance at Sonar Festival in Barcelona. Everyone is familiar with Sonar Festival? Yes? Can I see the hands, please? The ones that are familiar with Sonar? Okay. So in a nutshell, that's what happened, right? And this project couldn't be a reality without the best team in the world that I've had so far. The first one was Mario Klingemann. I don't know if you know him, but he's considered, I would say, one of the semi-gods that we have in AI with an artistic approach. Mario is an artist and a coder, and it's been amazing having him in this project and collaborating and working with him with all the stuff that you're gonna see in a few minutes. And the other collaborator is Marc Marzenit, my partner in crime from Barcelona. He's a music producer, and he has this amazing approach to electronic music with a really classical component to it, which is exactly what I'm also trying to do, but in visual arts. And then obviously myself. And for the ones who don't know me, I have a PhD in cognitive science, and I'm also an artist. And these last years, what I've been trying to do is to lead these projects that, as I said at the beginning, they are at the intersection of art, science, and technology. And everyone is telling us that these are really disruptive projects because of the way that we model them or the way that we design them. And I like to explaining it in the following way. So all of the projects that I'm leading have kind of this nucleus, to put it some way, that is purely research, academic, scientific based, but then they are kind of wrapped with a really artistic approach to it, so that the output is not only publishing papers. Sorry for the publishing companies of the but we are also exploring other formats to explain and to publish these results, this data, all this research that we are doing. And in this case, it's been a performance. It's been a show. And the whole My Artificial Muse project started actually here in London. When I was asked, I was told to work and collaborate with Professor Simon Colton. Professor Simon Colton is a professor at Goldsmith who also works in AI applied to creativity. And he is the father of a machine that is called the Painting Fool. And they tried to solve me the idea that we were going to do a performance, a show, where there would be a battle in between this AI machine with supposed creativity skills or versus myself, an artist, like a human artist. And the whole idea was to see who the audience at the end of the show, at the end of the performance, consider was being more creative, if the machine, the AI, or myself. And although I had so much fun, as you can imagine, during all those 4 or 5 months that I was helping Professor Simon Colton in terms of seeing how the machine was using these computational creativity methods and to understand how the machine and the algorithms were able to create an artistic output. I had so much fun. But in the end, after the project, I realized, guys, this really doesn't make any sense to try to present in a scenario on a stage like this confrontation man versus machine. So that's when I started exploring or asking myself, what kind of relationships can we establish between these man versus machines in terms of creativity, in terms of art? Is it going to be an additive relationship? Is it going to be a multiplicative one? Who knows? So we wanted to start exploring this topic. And I've been all my life trained as a really classical fine art artist, like mainly oil painting. And for me, the concept or the idea of a muse, it's been always kind of present. And I've always found that it was a really oldish, old school, I don't even have more adjectives, but you get what I mean. The idea of a classical muse, right? That you get inspired from. So we wanted, in a sense, to put this idea, this concept, a bit upside down, and start asking, okay, what is a muse or what can be a muse? Who can be a muse? Where can I find a muse? And a more critical questions, in this case, can a muse ever be artificial? Can I get inspired by something that is digitally or computationally made? Do I really only get inspired by physical bodies that I can touch? So that's the dynamics that we wanted to explore. And if you simplify at the maximum level, or if you try to simplify, visually speaking, this idea, this concept of a muse, you end up with a human body, normally. Could be a male or a female, but you end up normally with a human body. And visually speaking, you can just have a concept of a body in just a couple of traces. A little drawing tells you or shows you a human body in a specific gesture, in a specific position. That's a really simple output. And you will see that this simple input is the only one that we were giving to this machine to create this artificial muse that you'll see. And so to explain a bit more in a funny way this idea of an artificial muse, we were working obviously with Stickman, okay, because we were working in digital terms. So if I show you this Stickman, does this image ring any bell to you? Does it remind you of any famous, yes? This is la maja desnuda from Goya. What about if I show you this one? That's one. Yes. This is Olympia from Manette. This is a really simple idea. It's a simple concept just to explain you the idea behind of it. I'm sure that this one is going to ring lots of bells. David de Michelangelo. Oh, David de Michelangelo, sorry. The Creation of Adam from Michelangelo. And this is one of my favorite ones. And we have it here in London, so you guys should know that. No? Yes. Who was that? Good. A point for you. This is Ophelia from Everett. And this is actually the one that you'll see that we used for the position in terms of the body posture that we're giving to this neural net to create this artificial muse. And with Mario, we've been working a lot. Here, I just put like artificial neural network because I just want to simplify very much all the different 4 steps that I'm going to explain to you and the way we did it. But mainly, we've been working what it's known, the famous GANs, with these fancy names that we have in machine learning applied to ours, generative adversarial network. And even more specific, we're working with these other fancier ones that are called deep convolutional generative adversarial networks. So yes, it's just like these fancy names. In a nutshell, I'm just going to try to explain in 4 different steps the way we developed all this. The first step is what we like to call with Mario a random pose generator. So this would be the output that this bunch of algorithms that we developed were giving us as an output. So basically are these thousands and thousands of different stickmen in different postures, in different positions. And we would use this as a super simplified input so that the machine could get the idea of a human body, at least at the very beginning. So once we have this, we added a second step, and that's what we call proto-body. In a sense, in this step, what we wanted to see is if the neural net was able to start showing us, okay, that it seems that computationally speaking, you are understanding this idea of a human body. And we wanted a naked human body. And well, we were extremely surprised, and now you will see, and really amazed with the output that the neural net was giving to us. And we were shocked when we saw that these were the output that the machine was giving to us. Can you see it correctly, even with these lights, guys? Yeah. So many things here to discuss and to see. The first one, I'm going to be the one saying it because if I ask, no one would dare to say it. But guys, for me, this looks like child pornography. And with Mario, we were like, what the heck did we do? And it's still something that we didn't specifically figure that out. Maybe it's because of the sizes of the stickman. But here, we could have like another keynote just to explain all the ethical issues and cultural values that this data is showing us. Because as you can tell, yeah, here it's just like 6 single inputs, but we have 1,000. And I guess you've noticed that all of these are female bodies. So obviously, as a training data set, you can start figuring out that we used pornography. But then, obviously, after seeing the output, we are seeing how all the biases, gender biases that we have in our culture, then obviously even with an AI, they are getting even more exposed. So that's something to discuss in another occasion, but I really want always to explain this because it was really interesting. Once we have this third step with Mario that we call style transfer. It is not officially what is known in machine learning applied towards style transfer, but as a way to understand that this was the beginning, or we wanted the machine to start playing with the background, with colors, with textures, in a sense that the machine was trying to be a bit more creative, a bit more artistic in a sense. And you can start seeing, like, obviously this is really abstract, but there are some really cool apps, features, textures, colors. And after this, we had this really critical, computationally speaking, step, which we call it transenhancement. And this is the idea that obviously normally these GANs, the output that they generate is quite low in terms of the resolution of the image. And obviously we wanted really big images for the shows, for big projections, etc. And what you cannot do is just like to stretch the image because you get pixelized in a matter of milliseconds. So we had to develop something really tricky because we had to add, or we had to create this last step where each of the new pixels that you're adding to the original image in order to make it bigger, each of these new pixels needs to be coherent, aesthetically speaking, with the rest of the picture. And that was really tricky. This is the idea of what happens if you just stretch and if you try to add new pixels but have a coherence, aesthetically speaking, with the rest of the picture. So in a nutshell, these were the 4 steps of the neural net. And there was a funny interaction, a funny way of communicating with the machine. And Mario developed me like a little app for my phone where we could establish what we call a human-machine curation process. So the machine was showing me the final outputs, and I was swiping left, swiping right. It's true, and if you combine the swiping left, swiping right with the idea of the child pornography, it becomes a bit, but that's the way we were doing it, in order to redirect in terms of the aesthetics of the output that we wanted to achieve. And now, for the first time, you see the first big artwork that the machine created. And I've seen this image like a billion of times, but I still get super amazed with all these details. Look at the head, at the face. Those textures of the face are incredible. And you have to understand that this is 100% artificially produced. So I didn't do, or Mario didn't do anything in terms of drawing or anything. And you can also tell this laying position coming from that Ophelia that we've showed from that stickman at the very beginning. And with this project, we created a performance, a show. And let me show you what would you see if you come to one of our shows. On that side, on the left side, you see this big cube, which is like 2 meters high. It's giant, where in 4 different acts, as if it was like a really operistic format, we explain these 4 different steps that I've been telling you using visuals. So we've created visuals in 4 different acts that explains you all this story from the stickman to the final output. So that part of the stage is the AI part, let's put it that way, or the part for the machine. And on the right hand of the stage, you can see myself painting live. In each performance, it's just 1 hour, painting live one of these artificial muses using oil colors. and it's kind of a redesigned canvas because it's floating in the air, and there's a light show. Not only that, I'm wearing, during the performances, I'm wearing in my body different sensors so that the music set is also live, so it's generative music also, and the music responds to the movements that I do live while painting. So for each show, there's a new artificially Muse produced, there's a classical Muse painted, and also a new music live set. And if you notice this red circle right in the middle, this always goes in the middle of the stage. And it's really interesting because every time that I move and I just stand inside of this circle, like things happen. It's where I communicate in a sense with the machine. It's all about this human-machine interaction process that I'm telling you in a very theatrical way. We've been, well, let me show you like a video of the show. And yes, let me tell you that it's really exhausting to paint a 3 meter by 3 meter canvas in less than 1 hour. But I have so much fun every time. So we've been with these performances touring around the world. We've been in Poland. We've been in Colombia. We've been in Medellin recently this summer. We've been obviously in Spain. We've been in Spain at Sonar Festival, and believe it or not, with my managers, we are trying so hard to make it happen here in the UK. So I'm just taking this chance to say, guys, any kind of support and help would be really appreciated, seriously, because we are gonna start like going all Latin America this next year, also in Japan, and I've been based here for the last 6-7 years, and there's no way we can push it farther. So we would love to have it here in the UK. Well, here are some pictures that you've seen during the video. Like we have the cube, we have the canvas. It's really cool when I stand in this circle in the middle of the stage. There are some projections into my palette. That's something that people really enjoy. So after this project, I would like to share with you at least 3 thoughts, 3 reflections after all this year and a half that we've been working on this topic. The first one would be that, wow, we are realizing that there's already a history of digital artistic movement and styles. In the same way that we are all familiar with Romanticism, Expressionism, Surrealism, we are noticing right now that we have already different movements, different styles that are only computationally produced, computationally generated. Let me give you some examples. if you show me an image like this one, I would definitely tell you, oh, this is definitely from 2015, and it's all about this deep dream, Google Deep Dream algorithms that were creating this kind of aesthetics. And that's definitely 2015. If you show me an image like this, I would tell you that's definitely style transfer techniques, and it's from 2016. It was a huge hit, and I can definitely tell you that this kind of textures, it's using those specific GANs, those specific neural networks. If you show me something like this, I would tell you, oh, this is from last year. This is Peaks to Peaks. It was also a big hit, and it's definitely from 2017. So it's a very specific style, texture, the kind of imagery, the visuals that you get. And if you show me something like this, that's extremely recent. This is from last month, or not even last month. These are what they are called big guns. And these last weeks have been like super revolutionary. And this is some GIF that Gene Kogan, another one of the semi-gods that we have in our field, made using these interpolations between different objects, in this case, different animals. But in this case, the big guns allow you to do like really with big size images. Wow, and the performance starts right now. And the second thought that I would like to share is that it seems that this is also like really sincere thoughts that I'm sharing with you. It seems that we are developing new aesthetical sensibilities from artwork that is coming only or is only produced by data. So the same way that we are going to the Tate or we are going to the National Gallery, and I can spend half an hour just looking at a specific painting and looking at all the strokes and thinking about what the artist was trying to express or how he managed to paint that specific texture. Well, I'm realizing, not only me, but lots of people in the field and also people from the outside, that now when we are in front of these artificially produced artworks, we are kind of having the same emotional reactions to them. And that's kind of huge. Okay, yes, one of the examples, for instance, this is extremely subjective. You are the first ones in seeing this. This is something that I've been working these recent weeks. This is just a pilot study, but I'm trying to generate for a big project that I hope is going to come up. Greco-Roman ancient art, but in an artificial way. So in a sense, to create ancient statues that never existed. So this is just a pilot study, but this seems that it has lots of potential. There's, for instance, this other work that I really like from Anna Riedler. Check that these tulips are growing, some of the petals. And these petals are growing in relation to the differences in prices of Bitcoin. Yes. So this is one of Anna's last projects. Really nice. And the third idea, the third thought that I wanted to share is that also with Anna, because Anna is also trying to use these really high technology methods, but with a really classical approach, because she's also like a painter. We find really difficult sometimes to translate an image that we get in a JPG format into a canvas using our brushes, our oil paintings, or our acrylics, or our watercolors. Because there are lots of what we call artistic artifacts, let's call it textures, it seems that they are only present in the computational world. So I know how to paint normally things because I'm so used to them. I see wood, I've seen wood all my life, and I'm trying to replicate that texture into a canvas with the mechanisms that I've been trained with. But now these machines, they are giving me an input, they are giving me an image, and even if I zoom in, there's a point that I'm thinking, gosh, how the hell am I gonna translate that into a physical format? That's something super interesting, I think, from the history of art perspective. And one of the examples was, for instance, that head that we've seen from the first artificial Muse. This is actually the oil canvas that I painted, but it was extremely difficult to try to follow those textures and patterns. This is a GIF that goes from the artificial Muse that we used in Colombia for the Colombia show into the oil painting that I did in 1 hour in that Colombian show. And then, as you can tell, not even because of the super short time that I have during the show, the performance, but it's extremely tricky to recreate or to copy some of the textures. And you can see that these artifacts repeat themselves quite often. And it's really interesting to find it in the most random possible places, like the one that I'm going to show to you. Just for fun, these last weeks, I've been playing around. Everyone knows an artist from Spain, now super famous, that is called Rosalía. Now is like super famous. It's like a pop star, and she's trying to bring back flamenco, but in a really contemporary electronic way. And she's been like a huge hit. And so basically now what I'm trying is to create an artificial Rosalía that responds to my, for instance, to my movements. So now I've just done it with my face. There's still lots of work to do, as you can tell, but I'm also trying to do it now with like the full body. So in a sense, it's kind of you're creating a Muppet of whoever you want, basically. And yes, I would like to finish by saying that yes, we've been talking about all day about AI, but that's not the only cool stuff that is going on, guys. There are lots of other things, and I just want to give you an example of my last project that it was even crazier than this one. As you will see, it was called the Zero Gravity Band, and just in a nutshell, we've just went to zero gravity with Mark and to produce music and to produce paintings. So we've been exploring this for 1 year now. We also did the premiere at Sonar Festival this last summer, but I guess more of this, it's gonna have to wait for ConTech 2019. So with this, I would like to finish. Thank you very much.
Wow. Right, any questions? There we go.
Are there any other examples of what's happening in the music area being driven by AI? Are there similar projects? I know you've just hinted at one, but I just wondered if there's a sort of an emerging recent history of digital or artificially created music to parallel what you talked about in the visual arts.
Absolutely. So machine learning applied to music, now it's also like becoming something really cool to work with. We are working on it. I have lots of things that I cannot present yet, but if you follow me soon enough, you will. Seriously, we are doing some really cool projects on AI and music. And, well, obviously it depends. If you ask me, are we gonna like the kind of music that we are gonna hear out of it? Well, you will see, I don't know.
Any other questions? Yes, one more.
More on the practical front. So the amount of time, effort, and cost. Can you give us some idea? How long does it take to do something like this? Because I presume it does take time and effort. Is it mostly computational time, or is it mostly human time?
Lots of GPUs. Yes, it requires time because when you have basically in my case, what it takes the most of the time is to prepare nice and valid data sets that later I'm going to use for all the learning methods. That's what it takes. Lots of work, like a huge amount of work, because all of them have to be in specific formats. You have to. It's like a proper artwork just to deal only with the data sets. I don't know. Yes, for projects like this, you require lots of time and money. Yeah.
I'm speechless. I really enjoyed to see, but I'm scared at the same time because art is the last field of liberty of the brain, if you know what I'm saying. So don't you fear the consequence of your own creation?
Not at all, guys. Just
Okay.
relax.
In 50 years, we speak again. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. What? As an artist, you are not afraid, or you appreciate the same object. I mean, when you paint something with colors, you have the same feeling when you look on it as a screen artist.
The truth is that I'm not scared at all because I'm more creative than ever, seriously. So it's not about the confrontation between what the machines can do and what I can do, and then we go in parallel and we'll see how it goes. But it's absolutely the opposite. Like what we are trying, all the artists that we are working with machine learning is trying to create this kind of symbiosis in between the machine and the artist. And a clear example is what we are trying to do with the performance. You create this feedback loop that in the end you don't know who is inspiring whom. If the machine is inspiring me when it's giving me the visual artificial muse, or if it's me that while moving on the stage, I'm affecting the music generation, and that obviously also affects me and affects the machine. So in the end, you don't know. It's a huge mess in terms of who is creative and how the creativity process goes. So, and right now we are so far away again of having like this big AI or general AI working in terms of artistic outputs.
Whilst I'm walking, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What happens if you throw in some Jackson Pollocks or like an Andy Warhol or a Lucian Freud into this whole classical art?
Well, the neural net is going to give you a new Jackson Pollock in a sense. Obviously, it's not going to look exactly like one of them, but I'm sure for the general public, there's been lots of studies already like showing man-made, human-made paintings and artificially produced paintings, and people no longer can detect which one is which one.
So I think that leads into my question, which is around, can AI be creative? So in that sense, it's copying.
Mm-hmm.
But have you, in any of your work, have you experienced a situation where you felt, wow, the AI has actually been creative, and I'm impressed by that, or been surprised by that?
It's funny what happens during the performances, because I have this kind of peaks and downs of, at some moments I feel like, oh gosh, like I'm still like the human artist here, just like, this is just a machine. Some other moments is like, I'm fucked. Like, in a few years, this kind of machinery is going to surpass what I could, as a human, be able to offer to humanity. And at some other moments, it's like amazing. Basically, if I'm working in this, it's because of this third kind of feelings or emotions, which is the moment that I really feel that it's like there's this connection in between the two processes, and you feel that you are part of something different from what you're used to be as only a human artist, and that's really cool.
It just strikes me that throughout history, art reflects life, life reflects art, and this just seems like a natural evolution that as our lives are more entwined with different kinds of tools and different things are available to us, it only makes sense that it would ultimately be incorporated into all forms of expression. So I personally don't think you're fucked. I just
Thank you.
No, I mean, honestly, it sounds like you're being a pioneer, and I think it's interesting, and I can't imagine that, it'll be not just, I don't want to say that, but it's another evolution of art, another art form. Some people will love it, some people will hate it, just like all art. So, yeah, it's just amazing. Sorry, I don't have a question. I was just in awe.
Reflection. Thank you.
I have a more technical question. When you paint, did I get that right? You paint what artificial intelligence provides. So the painting from artificial intelligence is not printed?
No.
But you paint it?
Yes.
And how do you technically? Do you have a light on your canvas, which is projection, or?
No. So all the visual projections on that huge cube is all what the machine, the output from the machines, like from these 4 different steps. That's one side. And then in the other one, I'm just using really classical fine art techniques, such as oil painting, with a standard canvas. And yes, obviously there's a... So this always happens in theaters and stages. So yes, I have
so you look
lines.
at the painting, the artificial painting, and repaint it, but not by projecting the image on the... Because that would be difficult, because I know that then the colors look totally different, and that would be a nightmare. So being a painter by myself, I couldn't imagine how to do it. But yeah, the other way makes sense. Okay.
Who owns the rights?
That's the question. I always answer, I always say 50-50. And as the machine can handle the money, I'm just going to keep it. And whenever he... No. There's a huge debate, obviously, now on legal rights and copyrights from artworks that are generated by artificial intelligence. And it depends, I was just reading an article today, and it depends also on different countries right now. And some countries put more weight into the work of the coder, because in the end it's just like a person who codes or a bunch of people who code that. But right now it's just like it's a human who has its rights, because we are still really far away of having this idealized AI entity that lives on its own. So we are still like the ones like coding. It's just a bunch of algorithms.
I suppose you're almost answering my question.
Oh,
a typical lawyer's question is who owns the creativity in both yours plus the machine generated? If it's reflecting or is it to some extent morphing what you're doing in machine language, so therefore you're the original owner, but it's a variation or derivation of what you started to create. So I'm just thinking, I'm tracking the ownership line along the way.
It gets a bit fuzzy, right?
Yeah, it is very fuzzy, especially how far it gets away from your original creativity. And then when you're going to the aspect of, to some extent, is the machine then starting to create something that you're then replicating? So then you're having, when you had a look at you're creating on a screen what it is also creating in the cube. So therefore, to what extent, when it creates something that you then have to replicate. So There you go. That's
There you go.
something for you to think about for
Think
the
about
future.
that.
I was also going to say, if you don't have anyone else to show your this show, just go up to the Edinburgh International Festival in August. This is exactly what it's for.
Which one? Sorry.
Edinburgh International
Edinburgh
Festival. It's perfect for this new creativity stuff.
Happy.
There you go.
to-
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, I think that brings us to the end of my artificial muse. Can we give another round of applause for Albert,
Thank you.
please?
Thank you.